welcome everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Jed Taylor. I serve as the Assistant Dean of Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Director of the Technology Entrepreneur Center in the Grainger College of Engineering. I'm excited to welcome you all today for one of the many events this year celebrating the launch of the Siebel School of Computing and Data Science. We're live streaming this event, and thanks to all those that are joining us online today. It is now my privilege to introduce Rashid Bashir, the Dean of the Grainger College of Engineering and the Grainger Distinguished Chair in Engineering. A nationally and internationally recognized scholar and educator, Dean Bashir is on the cutting edge of engineering, biology, and medicine. With more than 300 publications and patents, earned 55 patents to his credit. He is also an active entrepreneur, and innovations for his lab are a basis for 2 successful startups. Last fall, Dean Bashir was elected into the National Academy of Medicine, and which is one of the highest honors in health and medicine fields. Earlier this year, he was also elected in the Academy of Arts and Sciences. He also co-led the creation and was appointed to the Executive Leadership Committee of the Chan Zuckerberg BioHub in Chicago. During his time as the Dean of the Grainger College of Engineering, as his time at the Dean of Grainger College of Engineering, it's also included the addition of some of our largest partnerships in the college, which includes the Foxconn Illinois Center, the IBM Discovery Accelerator Institute, and the naming of our college 5 years ago to the Grainger College of Engineering. I'm very happy now to introduce the 15th Dean of the Grainger College of Engineering at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, Dean Rashid Bashir. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you, Jed. Can you all hear me okay? Well, thank you all for being here. And I think Jed didn't listen to my instructions when I said keep that very short. So thank you. But none of this that you heard would be possible without just a great team. So we just have a phenomenal team across campus and across the college. So thank you all for being here. I'm just super excited today, and you can see the reason why. You know, there is very few people, I think, across the world that can say that, or they can claim to have done something that truly has changed the world, and that truly maybe somebody from 1 year old or even younger than 1 all the way to the oldest person knows and has used, right? So let's please give a very warm round of applause to Steve Chen for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me do a brief intro of him. Of course, everyone knows him and can read up, but let me just take just a couple of minutes. So Steve is a serial entrepreneur, known for creating, of course, very forward-thinking global companies and technologies that have really transformed our daily lives. He was born in Taiwan. Steve immigrated to the US with his parents when he was 8 years old. And I want to, if that's okay, take this minute to also welcome his parents. They are here. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Please stand up. And also his son is here. Jaden, stand up, please. So Steve was raised in Chicago area, and then he went to IMSA, I think many of you know, the Illinois Math and Science Academy in Aurora, before enrolling at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign in 1996. 3 years later, he left Illinois to the Silicon Valley. We'll hear about that journey to join PayPal. After PayPal, he actually joined Facebook for a few months, and during that time, he and a few of his colleagues started this video sharing platform that we all know about. Steve was honored with the Grainger College of Engineering Department of Computer Science's Young Alumni Achievement Award, of course, some years ago. In 2018, he was also inducted as the laureate of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois and awarded the Order of Lincoln, which is the state of Illinois' highest honor. And in 2022, we also inducted him into the Grainger Engineering Hall of Fame. He now resides in Taiwan, Taiwan and the Bay Area, but mainly Taiwan, and he's active in helping the Taiwanese entrepreneurship ecosystem grow and realize its potential. So let's join him in welcoming him one more time, please. Steve, thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll just have sort of a conversation, and you can talk about anything you want. They're all here to just see you and hear from you. But we did field some questions from the audience, so I'll maybe just start with one of them. But can you just talk about your journey from Illinois to PayPal? How did that come about? Kind of what was going through your mind at the time of making that decision? It was sort of an unknown, a big risk. So can you just...
Well, it's good to be back on campus, right? It's been 25 years. It's been 25 years since being here back in Champaign-Urbana. I've been through sort of Chicago a few times. Even did things like the Oprah show and a few of these things I never thought. But this is definitely something that during my years from 96 and 99, I never thought I would be doing the lectures flipped around and not be sitting in one of the seats. But no, that journey, I want to say, it's drawing a lot of comparisons, especially spending the last 3 days there in Chicago and talking to some of the incubators and some of the funds and VCs in the area. And usually one of the first questions that comes up, and that's not even just the incubators, even from the mayor, Mayor Daley at the time, it was like, why do you guys keep moving to California? Why don't you come to Chicago to do the startups, right? And to be honest, I think that it's never at the top of the list. It's on the bottom of the list to pack up all of your bags and get onto a one-way trip flight out to Silicon Valley where you don't know anyone, you don't have family out there, you don't have friends out there, it's almost restarting another segment, another chapter in your life. It's much easier to move to Chicago. But back in 1999, and I see that changing over the years as I've continued to come back, but I think that I think still to this day, even on a global level, Silicon Valley is still at the forefront, at the heart when it comes to startups. And a few of those key components when it comes to investors, angel investors, seed investors, venture capital, and larger funds. That's based out there. There's one Sand Hill Road there where you're meeting all the VCs out there. A lot of the entrepreneurs, not just from the area, but from around the world, they tend to go there. And a lot of the engineers themselves, they tend to go there. But I think that, especially after what's happened with COVID, right? I think that there's been a lot of other pockets and seeds planted elsewhere around the world. And as I've been coming back to Chicago, I've just gained more and more optimism and just positive feedback about this is a great place. And I think especially as we start thinking about not just as an entrepreneur, but as we start thinking about with family and with where we want to raise the kids, I think Chicago is one of the best places in the entire U.S. to be raising the family, and I think that greater things are going to be coming in terms of that. But I think back in 1999, it was really looking at a few of the companies that were based in Chicago at the time, and then it happened to be that you mentioned IMSA, the Math and Science Academy. Right. Two of the first sort of almost founders or founding engineers of PayPal were from, again, the same backgrounds, Math and Science Academy and U of I as well. And they went straight out there following one of the co-founders, Max Levchin, who was, again, also from U of I as well. And they, similar to, I think it continued even after I went there, it was when you're first going out to Silicon Valley and you're getting your first fundraising check from the VC, the next thing you do is, how do we grow the company? When grow the company really means, how do we find the next set of engineers that we really need? And that was when I received, I think it was over ICQ at the time, and back in 1999, way before, but it was a messaging chat. It was talking with Max Levchin, and it was doing this interview, it was just, after the interview was over, it was like, okay, you're on board. When can you come out? Can you be out here starting next Monday? And so that was the trip. And that I think is kind of the gist of the difference that I continue to see between sort of Silicon Valley and anywhere else in the world, including Taiwan, as I've been out there for the last few years, right? Is that it's just there's always a lot of risk, but really people are willing to take that risk. And I think it's not too much of all the calculation to just optimize, but it's just, look, if we don't take this step, regardless of the probability of success, it's going to be zero if we don't at least take that first venture step out. So that's how I made it out there to Silicon Valley. But then those few years were very, very monumental. I think during those PayPal years, I think we were one of the first few startups that actually made it through that dot-com crash. And I think we talked maybe later a little bit about it, but I think, Elon Musk was part of that group. Peter Thiel, Max, after the acquisition of PayPal by eBay around 2004, 2005, that was the period where this entire, in fact, like there's a name, PayPal Mafia, that was created of all the people that have done something outside of that. And so everything from, you have Tesla and SpaceX and LinkedIn and Palantir, and even on the venture side, 500 startups, Sequoia Capital. They were all people that came out of that PayPal group. And of course, the YouTube was the three co-founders of YouTube were all from PayPal, and then including one of the other co-founders was also, again, U of I. Javed was PayPal as well.
Yes. Yeah. So the time you were at PayPal, you were one of the earliest employees, and then you saw it grow as well, and of course be acquired. So that must have been just a great experience to take with you as you went off to the next endeavor. How was that in terms of watching that growth and managing and kind of going through that major growth through PayPal? Because when you started, it was very small. Of course, you were one of the first few employees.
I think that's an excellent question, right? I just did an interview or a podcast with the Sequoia team, and I think it's going to be going online in the next few weeks. But right before the interview, I had a chance to talk to Roloff, who heads up who's the managing partner there for Sequoia Capital now, who is also wears the hat, this sort of PayPal Mafia hat. And I was asking him that we get this question a lot about what was so special about PayPal. And I told him, to be honest, there's one thing that you're coached to answer in a certain way, but whether or not you believe this PR training or not, that's another issue. And when I told him, I'm not really sure what we gained, but we talked about it because we were uncertain. It felt for us being part of that just like it was any other company. It was just another startup. But then I think taking a step back, the fact that you did survive this dot-com crash together, where overnight, all of a sudden, what was in the bank accounts, what was sort of guaranteed to be a next series funding round, all of a sudden it disappears. And so you have to make these adjustments. And I think that there was also, all of us were all around. So I went out there when I was around 21 years old. Was there for when I originally started at PayPal, and I was there from 99 to 2005. But all of us, the Reid Hoffman's, Max, Peter, David Zacks, like the entire PayPal Mafia was all around that age range, around 26, 27, 28, 29, or all around that age group, where they all made something from PayPal, but they're all way too early to be thinking about retirement. And so I think it was just a period where the internet was starting to really take over, where the adoption rates were getting bigger, where broadband was starting to get more penetration, and a lot of the sort of services with these solutions that we now know today, they were yet to be produced, but they were all the technical requirements and the prereqs for them were all there to be done. It was waiting for something to build, and I think that PayPal group all just happened to be leaving at the same time, and there was a lot of collaboration back and forth. And so I would say, like, Roloff sat as the first board member on YouTube, and then we received, and even at the time at Facebook, there were connections as well through from no second from those connections as well. And so there was a lot of kind of like a collaboration that we see. And even to this day, I think most of the people, there's not really much to do in Silicon Valley other than just to start companies and just to work at companies. And so, and it continues to be something where people are helping each other out as they need it.
Good, good. So talk to us about that time then when you left PayPal and just with the idea of YouTube, like how did that come about? I don't know if you can share, like the three of you, there was 3 co-founders. How did that start? That, okay, well, hey, we're doing this and people might like videos, or what happened there? What was the thought process and how did that came to the decision? Like, how do you come to the decision that, okay, let's take off and start this new thing?
Well, I think that, I'll answer it this way maybe, it's like, just in this room even, I don't know if most people are YouTube users, raise your hand. Maybe you've used it today.
Yes.
But I think the other one is, did you use YouTube today as a dating site? Because that's what we thought YouTube was going to be. And after a week, I mean, I want to say that it was, there are two sides, I think, to, especially in the consumer app, consumer product, consumer startup side. There's the actual technical back end of it. And I think in early 2005, what did we have to do? You had to, there were some codecs out there, but everything required a download. Nothing was that was working inside the browser. And the sort of H.263 video codec was only approved in late 2004, right before YouTube started. And so that wasn't even possible more than 6 months before YouTube began what we were doing. But it was taking in all the videos, doing all the sort of real-time transcoding of the videos of all the different codecs into something that could be used inside the browser, being able to embed that video, that was very important. So it wasn't just, YouTube itself was still an unknown name. And so the idea was, how do you get the marketing? And this is a lesson learned at PayPal, was that PayPal is a payment service. That's one thing, but that's just, how do you get this into a product that people will use? And that became the sort of sometimes positive or negative, but the collaboration between PayPal and eBay was that, well, here comes a service where at the end of every auction, a missing element was missing, which is how does the buyer pay this? How do these transactions happen when it comes to paying for the auction that you just bid on? And so for YouTube, it was still 2 years before the iPhone came out. It was still a difficult time to be creating videos, much less, would I just be, here's a video service, would I just be creating videos for the site at the time? And really, at first we thought, okay, well, let's pick one vertical that we think it's going to take off on, and we said dating.
Thought it was dating.
I think all Facebook, I think all these services that become something much bigger, they all start off as dating sites. But again, 0 videos uploaded after a week, but what we started seeing was people started embedding, and at the time it wasn't Facebook, but it was MySpace at the time. But it's more or less the predecessor to Facebook as it is today. Yeah. And they allowed the ability to use these HTML embeds that allowed you to be able to take videos that you find on YouTube, and then at the there was a section there that gave you a little snippet of code that allowed you to put it into the MySpace page. And then over a period of time, what we saw was that people were consistently seeing, and MySpace itself didn't host videos. And so the only way that you were going to be able to either upload, share, and share was the most important. It wasn't so much a video that you uploaded and created yourself, but it was just something that you found funny, and you can put that into your own profile page on MySpace. And that was when the definition of kind of virality, the communal virality started with YouTube. But I think there are two components to it. I think there's the on the engineering side, this is still before data centers. This is before AWS, before Microsoft and Google Cloud was out there. So this was still creating, just again, Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings, waiting at the parking lots for these 42U racks of machines. I don't know if people have been in data centers and you're plugging in each of these and just figuring out how much power is going to be used in each of the data racks, how much bandwidth, and at a certain period when YouTube was using up something like 20% of the internet's traffic, and just this was still all new to us, right? I mean, you're signing these peering agreements with just the networks of how to transport all the data up from up into Canada, up into different parts across the Trans-Pacific, across different parts of the world, and you're building data centers, flying to them, and it's not as easy as just, it is so easy now to be able to just log in and say, I need to order 10 machines. Back then it was 6 weeks, and unfortunately pulling out your own credit card to have to buy these machines and then being there at the shipping address on the day that it's supposed to arrive, pulling it out, bringing it up each machine to the second floor and plugging everything in. So, I mean, it's changed so much in that aspect, but I do think that, even when we did build it out, so we started building it in February of 2005, and then we originally launched, I think in the last week of April in 2005, when it was a dating site for a week. But that period was mainly built on the just the back end side of it, really on the engineering side. But after a week of 0 videos uploaded, I think it was important for us to say, is our videos and the internet going to be a coexisting ecosystem? Are they going to be able to live together, or is it just going to be, and there were still a lot of questions at the time when it came to things like copyrighted content, when it came to music and all. But we did decide to make a change just to say, all right, before thinking that this is just not going to work out, let's change, instead of rating videos using hearts, let's rate them using just stars. And instead of liking and disliking the videos, it's just thumbs up and thumbs down, and just it was mainly a more user interface change that we were able to get out in a couple of days, and that's when we started seeing videos starting to get uploaded. And now looking back, I was like, well, what were we thinking for that first week? But I mean, I think it's a lesson to be learned that I think many of the startups, they all go through these changes, and so I think it's good to be, I think, to have the confidence to build something, but then I think it's also good to have some of the openness to be able to think about needing to change the ideas as you start seeing more data come in, as you start seeing how your product is used.
Yeah. So you said that within a week you guys changed the plan of what it was going to be used for, perhaps. But when did you realize that this is something really special, that it's really going to take off? Was it sometime soon after that, or was it much later when maybe the camera technology and recording technology became much more pervasive? When did you realize that YouTube was something really special?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were a few videos that definitely, I remember too in 2005, there was a Saturday Night Live video that was uploaded, and I think it showcased this ability where you didn't have to be up at Saturday night to watch and if you missed it, it doesn't mean that you had if you forgot to DVR record it or something, you could, and it didn't make sense. You get access to global audiences worldwide at any time, any place, and they can watch this content. And so I think that showed NBC that when it comes to episodes of Saturday Night Live, like we can upload it to YouTube. And then I think another one was there was a video, one of the first videos that received over 1 million views was a video uploaded by Nike's advertising marketing department, but more of their kind of on the experimental side, because again, YouTube was very new, the internet video was very new at the time, but they uploaded this video of like one of the Ronaldinho juggling this soccer ball off a goal post, and that ended up receiving 1 million video views, and that surprised them as well. Well, I think, I mean, it's like I remember we ended up flying up to Oregon to meet up with them because they wanted to just talk further. But also, it was so new at the time. I remember before that flight that we also received a call from their legal department that was telling us to take it down because they thought somebody had stolen their IP and uploaded it to YouTube. And so everything was, in that 2005 period, when it came to sort of internet and videos, it was all pretty new. For us, I think a large part of it, especially from the engineering side, was just on the costs. I mean, people, even to this day, I mean, when I'm looking at some of these 4K videos that's uploaded on YouTube, and I know that you can upload that for free and store it up there for free, but knowing how much it used to cost me to
actually store
I feel
it
sorry
on the back end.
for Google to have to pay for this. I mean, ultimately, way down the line, this is a post-acquisition. Of course, they've been able to make it work very well, especially with the collaborative model between the creators, the advertisers, and the viewers, right? But at that time, it was just, how can you still pay for this? And just storage. And we really required every part that was expensive when it comes to data centers. We required the storage to store the original videos. When new codecs came out, we would retranscode everything. We would keep the backups. When the iPhone eventually came out, it was on a different codec than what we were using, so they forced us to have to read and transcode all the videos that was, the entire library of content that was on YouTube at the time. When it comes to, you need the computational power, you need the storage, you need a lot of bandwidth, you need the memory, and the heat distribution in the data centers. So every part of that. But I think like towards the, as with all things, I think with Moore's law, everything gets cheaper and cheaper to do on the internet. So I mean but they just kept coming up with better resolution cameras. Every time there was another up in the resolution, I'm like, that's going to be a lot more expensive for YouTube to be hosting. But ultimately, I think there was there was an acquisition with Google in 2006, and we were talking to a few people at the time. But I think the one problem that I think on the engineering side, on the scalability side, we grew more and more confident, I want to say, over a period of time. As we started opening up more data centers, I knew we were taking up a large percentage of the internet's bandwidth, but we knew that we could scale with it. But the part that, that we couldn't figure out, and it was really, it wasn't just a problem where we came up with a solution and we deployed it. It was really on the legal side of things, on when it comes to whether it's just music or TV content, when it comes to international content, when it comes to, for example, we were getting a lot of anime content that was getting uploaded to YouTube at the time. And that was coming from creators, it was coming from content creators in Japan, but it was getting uploaded to YouTube. And there's a Digital Millennium Copyrights Act out there that we could use to say that, we're a US only company, and so I'm sorry that this piece of content is, but we knew at some point, I mean, over 50% of the viewers of the traffic was coming from outside the US. Like, we were gonna have to do something about that. But I mean, when it comes to just on the music side, with like, I think, we were able to figure out, again, from the technical side, that we can do audio fingerprinting to know that this song that's in the background of this video is by Lady Gaga. But then you have to then figure out, who are the distributors, the producers behind this, and then who are the viewers that's watching this by IP address, and then to figure all that out, and then you figure out if you're going to try to monetize this, or did you play a pre-roll ad in front of this, and if so, how do you distribute this? And so, but all of that had to be figured out, and a little bit of a chicken and egg, because we're trying to promise Universal or EMI or Sony Image, whoever the music labels were at the time, that, look, trust us, keep this content on YouTube, and then let's do a rev share when we get the advertising in. but this was when the question is, when are you going to start getting the advertising? So that was the point in which we really knew that this was beyond just a product or an engineering thing, but really required the help of a
lawyers
larger company.
and lots of other expertise that need to be brought into
Google's
manage.
legal department is they're very used to the lawsuits.
That's right. Yeah. Can you? There's a question from a student. What was the best advice you received in the early days of YouTube?
I think I do think that there is this compromise between and it's hard to call sometimes, but I think it's being determined enough to give it a shot when everybody else is telling you that this is not possible. But then at the same time, I love saying that how many people in the room have used YouTube as a dating site, because I see all sorts of content up there, cat videos and pet videos. You don't see dating videos even 20 years later.
That's true.
So I think knowing that when to try to give, but I think the recommendation is that it took from February until, let's say, May, 3 months to build all and solve sort of on the technical side all the requirements that we needed to overcome to be able to launch YouTube in its current form. And then it took another 2 days it took a week to know that we're not getting any videos of this type. It took 2 days to change it and then redeploy it and start to see content coming in. And I think that if that didn't work out, we would have tried some other things as well. So probably the one thing is just that none of these, or I would say not none, but very few of these companies that are in the hundreds of billions or $1 trillion, on day one, they've started out doing accomplishing the mission that they are seeking to accomplish now. And YouTube is a great example of that. Very few people know what it was originally, but it was through I still think that it was let's get to work on this. We don't know how we're going to be able to monetize it. We don't know exactly what kind of content, but we do know that we do have some things in here that's going to be new, that's going to be utilizing the newest technologies that's come out in recent times that nobody's done before. Let's try to give this a shot. And even I think when we were recruiting from U of I, actually, it was always talking to, and they always had many choices. If they were already deciding to go out to Silicon Valley, it was, how do you recruit a top-tier engineer to not go work for Google, but come to
you guys, a much smaller company, a very different,
And you got to tell them honestly, we may not be around in 6 months. I'm sure Google is going to still be around. We don't have the fundraising that they're going to be able to give you. We don't have the salary that they're going to give you. But I think that the only thing that was a differentiator between joining a startup versus joining Google was that whatever happens in the next 6 months, it'll be a memorable experience. We were showing the traffic numbers that we was scaling, and it was doubling every 2 weeks when it comes to the core metrics of video views, videos created, number of viewers from around the world. And so at least we know that that's going to be an experience in of itself that's going to be impossible to replicate in other places. And so, it's 6 months, and even to people that have ideas about doing something, I think especially if you have an idea, no regrets trying it out. And I think the one other item was, sometimes in conversations like this, people would come up afterwards and they would say, I've been working on this idea or thinking about this idea for a number of years now, and it's much better planned out than what we had in the days of YouTube when we launched it. And the question would be, what's next? And it's always just try it, just do it, just try it, right? And I think that would be the key message, is that if there's something out there, as at least one time in your career, if you have an idea, do it and try it. And even if it doesn't, of course, it's great if it works out, but even if it doesn't work out, it's going to create an experience that's going to be unforgettable.
Great. Well, that's great advice. I think we should give her an applause for that. So you heard that loud and clear, right? If you have an idea, you got to go try it out. You got to go try it out. But I think it's interesting. I mean, I have so many questions and thoughts around that because, a lot of times we now tell startups, well, you have to have a customer in mind, you have to have an application in mind. But at the same time, what you're saying is that can change very dramatically and very quickly. So you have to be nimble and quick on your feet in the business world. But I wonder if for the really unique and greatest things, like this idea of YouTube, the application was less important because there was something good that was going to be, it would have been used for. So I think this idea of a technology looking for an application versus being an application focused and finding the right technology, we often talk about that in our classes, right? Which way to go? And I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I mean, how much you want to be focused on the market in the beginning versus focusing on the technology, or how do you strike that balance? Because in your case, clearly that changed very quickly.
And I think it's a little bit different it's almost gauged on a per company basis, because I think as you start, especially as now that I've been in Taiwan and looking at more in the semiconductors, there's a lot more technology there than there was on, say, building out on the consumer app-facing side of things, right? And so I think it depends on kind of the target audience and the actual core technologies behind the product itself. But for, I think a large part of it was, I think there was a prerequisite required just to be able to build out YouTube, but a lot of it was trying to figure out that market fit. And I think that's a difficult problem, where I think that's where more of those sort of entrepreneurial characteristics come in, about just trying different things and just seeing things in a broader landscape than what you envisioned originally. I think that's important as well.
Okay. So there's another student question. As an engineer or computer scientist, how do you develop the business skills necessary for entrepreneurship? What advice would you have for students that are coming more from a technical background to do that while they're here or after they leave? Of course, we're developing a minor in entrepreneurship soon, so there you go. That's going to be one answer soon for everybody. But just any other thoughts about how do the scientists and engineers learn the business skills?
No, I mean, I think that's a great question, right? Because I think, I know that when I first left for California, it was knowing that it was going to be joining a riskier option than a company based here in Chicago if I was going to be doing a startup. But it was still always thinking about a sort of a trajectory within the technical engineering route. But the 5 years or so spent at PayPal, I've been thinking about are there ways to be able to replicate this? Because I think that even if I had this idea for YouTube, and if I didn't go through that experience of 5 years in Silicon Valley and doing all the different, playing the different roles and wearing the different sort of titles that I had there, I don't think I would have had the confidence to actually do it. But just knowing that a couple people that seem like normal people can create the next P2P payment service that dominated the sort of entire auction space, and then starting to do off eBay, you start gaining this idea that okay, well, maybe I can also create it. And I think that there was a part where I thought was very valuable, just the hands-on experience of playing so when I worked there, I was originally a software engineer, sort of senior staff software engineer, and then architect. So it was definitely on the sort of the technical ladder on PayPal. But then for the last year, the position I had was more of an engineering manager, and it was the product didn't work. It was trying to launch PayPal in China at the time, but I mean, for me, it was just managing a team of 21 people, and has like a 26-year-old. I don't know if that was the right decision that my manager made to appoint me to do that, but I learned one that was more intimidating than any of the architectural projects that I worked on at PayPal, to manage someone, especially someone that was like twice your age. Those were, I think those one-on-one meetings on a weekly basis were, I think, more intimidating for me than I think that most of the people that sat on the other side of the table. But I think that all throughout that experience, but that last part of it really gave me the confidence to say, okay, I'm ready to kind of give it a shot myself. But it's been interesting to think about, are there ways to be able, do you have to do that repeat experience? Because I do consider myself pretty fortunate to have selected of all the companies out there,
chose
PayPal,
PayPal,
right?
yeah.
And have gone through that period of being one of the first engineers and seeing how that grew up and going through the dot-com crash, and see how the managing team and the CFO, how they were able to sort of navigate through all that, and then that experience. Now, is there a way to be able to select the key components of that and be able to share that without just having to create another PayPal? And I do think that many of the key elements there can be taught, but I think it's still something that I think, as of me, I know that I wouldn't have done. Even if it was just the idea, it wasn't enough. I really needed that experience to give me the
confidence to go do that next.
Yeah, and I think that's the same for many of the folks that came out of PayPal during that period.
That's awesome. So if you hadn't done YouTube, what do you think you would have been doing? Or you weren't thinking very far ahead of the time about your career path, or what would you, this is a student question, if you had not founded YouTube, what do you think you would have been doing?
Well, I think, I think even after YouTube was staying on, I think I think one thing that's always pretty exciting in Silicon Valley, and I was working with the Google Ventures team a little bit, working with Paul here a bit on
Paul shortly.
For earlier stage companies, and I do think that there's a lot of these lessons that could be taught to, I think, sort of future potential entrepreneurs that have the ideas, but it's just a few little areas where I think many of the early stage startups continue to have to, many of these hurdles that are, you can get around them, but it's going to face every single one of these companies, right? And I see that in, especially outside of Silicon Valley. I see that with some of the companies that I met in Chicago, and then certainly in Taiwan, right? And I think that that's an area where I'd love to be able to just offer them a little bit of guidance, just to say, not to say this must be the way to do it, but this is how we did it, and we faced exactly this kind of issue. And I think that, I want to say that's like a key difference where it's so prevalent sometimes in Silicon Valley that you don't think about it as something that's special about the area, where everybody kind of has this experience and know-how until you, in my case, after 20 years living there, moving out, then you realize, not all entrepreneurs or not all startups have this kind of experience, and that's something that I'd be interested in doing now.
Okay, good. Well, that's great to hear, because I would love to get you involved more in helping our students, but also Chicago area. And I know you've been spending time in Taiwan, you said. And how do you recreate some of that magic of the Bay Area and Silicon Valley in other places if you can? So I know we were talking about this yesterday, the different ingredients, and you talked about having the raw talent, having entrepreneurs, like actually leaders, entrepreneurial leaders, and also capital. So are those the three core foundations you would say that one needs to build an ecosystem? Or is there something else also that, as we try to do this more in Chicago and also help our students do more of these entrepreneurial startups and companies?
No, you're right. I think that you definitely, need the sort of individual contributing and raw engineers that can actually build the products that you have in mind. But I think what I've been seeing lacking a bit in Taiwan in the last few years has been more the entrepreneurs, the globally minded entrepreneurs. So Taiwan's a pretty small country, 23 million people. And even then, I mean, just entrepreneurs in general is just to be thinking about, is there something that I can create to be able to fix and address this problem, this issue that I encounter over and over. But then I think an issue that I see in Taiwan that we never faced when we were in Silicon Valley was that we were just building something for us to use ourselves, right? And that just happened to be in a country with over 300 million people, and then the rest of the world follows along. And then in Taiwan, that's different. But I think this sort of entrepreneurial mind about thinking outside the box and being able to take that first baby step, that's
first
hard.
step. Yeah.
And then I think it comes to, I think one thing in Chicago that that I think is different, and also in Taiwan compared to Silicon Valley, is I think the lack of the not just venture capital, but I think amongst all stages of investing, but I think probably more important is the early stage of investing, where there's just a lot of crazy ideas that still get funding in Silicon Valley. But
it's a more high-risk funding, the high risk.
But sometimes it's kind of some of those ideas are the ones that truly take off. And I know that because of that, it's also the gravitational pull that draws a lot of the crazier spirits of, if I have an idea that I really think has a lot of potential and it's going to change the world, there's one place that I can convince people that this is possible, and it's going to be Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Okay. A couple of questions from students that are kind of maybe rapid fire type things. So what type of music are you playing on repeat? Do you listen to music? Do you listen to music?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a question. It's actually a lot of it's on Spotify these days, but a lot of the Spotify with it's a little like YouTube as well sometimes. That, I mean, it's looking at everything you're doing, every song that you're listening to. And I know at YouTube we were looking at every piece of video you've ever watched and how long you've watched it for. So if you've watched it for under 10 seconds, you're not going to actually go do a thumbs down. We just know that if you stop watching for less than 10 seconds, that means you didn't like this piece of content. But not just this piece of content, but this sort of cluster or this island of related content all of a sudden gets negative scoring. And then so sometimes when I'm watching a piece of content, let's say somebody sends me a Trump video, I don't want my related videos always to be just Trump videos. And so sometimes you go into just the private mode on the browser. So and in some ways in Spotify as well, it's like when I'm experimenting around with new music, sometimes I want to do it in a way where I don't just keep getting fed this for the next few weeks. But in general, it's kind of this softer Bob Dylan-ish
All right.
music.
Okay, good. What is your favorite YouTube channel? It's a very controversial question. I don't know if you want to answer that.
I watch a lot of cooking content with my son. Actually, we of all things, it's like, I don't know, father-son time in 2024 now. It's
cool.
Watching
cool.
YouTube cooking videos and cooking steaks together.
All right, that's great. When was the first cat video posted on YouTube? And what was the cat's name?
I mean, the excuse for uploading that content. I mean, it was my video, yes.
That's right. Everyone knows, right? Yeah, that's.
And the cat's name was Pajamas. Pajamas was born in Illinois, so the first cat was from Illinois.
From Illinois,
and
all right.
moved to
Well, we didn't know
California.
that. Okay.
I was invited to go to London to speak at a cat conference. I didn't know such things existed. For not knowing anything about cats, but just having the first cat video. It's I think that there's a huge group of cat lovers that's on YouTube suddenly, and I think without YouTube they wouldn't have had the cat bridge or something to connect
to come
with one
together.
another.
That's right. That's right. Good. Well, Thank you so much, Steve, for taking the time
Thank
to
you.
come. We can spend a lot more time together, but I want to actually, we're also being agile and nimble, and we're really honored to also have another colleague of Steve here with us, Paul. So I'll actually introduce Paul as we are going to try to bring him up. So Paul, please come forward. We're going to put a chair in the middle and put you in the middle, all right? So as I introduce Paul, Paul is a 3-time serial entrepreneur turned investor. He's currently managing 7 funds across the globe. He's recognized as a legendary investor, having been an early investor in Uber, Stripes, and Zappos. He's also an angel investor in the early. He was an angel investor in the early days of Uber, and I guess he's earned over maybe 200,000 times or 2,000 times his investment, or whatever, 2,000 return or 20,000x return.
Yeah, we've done pretty good.
You've done pretty good. So thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And this all actually, so let's please welcome Paul.
Good to see you here.
So Paul and Steve have worked together. When Steve was coming, when we announced that Steve was coming, they connected. And Paul is also a computer engineering alum. So he's a UIUC ILL. I know, all right. So we said, hey, let's just connect it all and talk together. So maybe you guys can talk a little bit about, you can say about how you two connected and maybe some of the projects you've done together.
Yeah.
And this whole Illinois connection in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And how much more of this there is that many of us might not know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So same guy who recruited you to PayPal, I'm guessing Russ, is how we connected. And so Russ is on the founding team of PayPal, and he also was the founder of Yelp. And he was my roommate. So I went a different direction. They all went to Silicon Valley, and I was like, you guys suck. I don't do that stuff. I would do video games, and I made the wrong choice, I think. They tried to recruit me there too, and I said no. That was a life regret, I guess. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but then we started working together on investments about 14, 15 years ago, right? So Steve said he's really into kind of community building and kind of helping ecosystems build. And that's something I'm really passionate about as well too. It's like, how do you go out there and support the next generation of entrepreneurs? Like, how do you support somebody in this room? I guarantee somebody in this room is going to build a huge company, right? Like, and how do guys like Steve and myself help you guys out? How do we help? The next girls can build $1 billion company, put that first check in, or just sit down and spend 30 minutes, right? That's, I think, the reason why you probably came to the campus today is to do that, right? So, yeah.
But even I think there's a huge group of people out in Silicon Valley. I mean, I remember Cafe Brony. There was the cafe there in sort of Palo Alto, Menlo Park area that we used to hang out all the time. Just do nothing except just drink coffee and just talk about ideas. But it was all people that were that we'd known one another for a number of years.
Some roots here.
And then I think we're still. I mean, we worked on during the times that we overlapped in Silicon Valley. I think we started a cafe. We started a mini incubator. I mean,
Can you tell us about the cafe you started together? What was that about, and how did that?
Yeah, I mean, so this is like 2009 timeframe, and Steve and a group of folks, they were just kind of brainstorming one day, like, hey, I think it was Jim and you were kind of working on this, right? And they were like, hey, wouldn't it be really cool to have because people just work out of cafes, like, why don't we just work out of a cafe, right? So another guy, Ashton, came on board, and they bought a building. And we're like, okay, let's just take this building, half it be like a public open space, we can hang out, and the other half be kind of a members-only place, and you can kind of just hang out. And then on top of it, we decided, the top floor, we could just have the companies that we invested to hang out, right? And it became this kind of first kind of co-working. It was there was co-working spaces before, there was cafes. We kind of mashed together, and it was a beautiful thing. And then on top of that, we built the first accelerator out in West Coast. So Y Combinator had launched in Boston. We're like, we can do that here too, right? And then that was kind of the beginning where I kind of respected investment groups too, right? So yeah, cool. For me it was for sure. So, yeah.
And earlier we were talking about how your company invested in ShipBop. Maybe you can talk about that just briefly, about that experience, or?
Yeah, I mean, so ShipBop is another fellow U of I alum, and I think they graduated 10, 15 years ago, so at least 10, 15 years younger than me. Yeah, I mean, they went through YC, and they kind of popped up on our radar. My brother is, kind of out, always scouring for all, really cool U of I and Chicago type of connected people. And yeah, I mean, but by the way, when they started, it was a very simple idea. And kind of going back to what Steve was saying, it's like, just starting is important. And what you start with is not what you're going to end up with. Almost every single major company in the world that starts is really an ugly duckling, right? And Shippo, I would say, was a pretty rough company in the beginning, right? But the founders were amazing. They had good passion, and they were busting, and they were like constantly iterating. We're like, we want to be part of that story. And so like, it's kind of our job now as investors or kind of community supporters, is like to find that little nugget inside what you're trying to communicate to us. And so, and how do you stick out? And how do you like show that you have grit and perseverance? And yeah, we saw that in them. And we put a small check in, and that small check is hopefully going to be an IPO next year or two, we hope, right? So, yeah.
I mean, I think for me, as when I'm talking about as like an angel investor, and then deciding which investments that I'm going to make, there are so many good ideas, so many pitch decks that look good. But for me, it's actually, and especially in the, I don't know about you, but for me in the early stages, in these seed rounds, pre-seed rounds, it's really looking at the entrepreneurs themselves and what they've done in the past. And it does mean that sort of looking more for the serial entrepreneurs, but serial entrepreneurs in both the sense of successes or failures. Failures in that they've learned something from this. It's not a bad thing to have started something and it didn't work out. But I think for me, a large part of it is almost more important than, certainly more important than what are your monetization amounts at this period in the early stages about the sort of exact idea, because that's all going to me, change a lot. But more important, the thing that doesn't change is going to be the sort of the dynamics of the co-founders of the company and the co-founders themselves. And that's really important to me when I'm looking at the early stages. And that's been, I think that's kind of worked out over time in that, these serial entrepreneurs, they've been able to demonstrate that when challenges come up, they've been able to figure out ways to figure out when or when not to, change courses.
Well, one thing for the campus kind of perspective, right?
Please, yes.
So like, we see a lot of companies that are repeat entrepreneurs or mature stuff, right? But also we do get, people coming in that are never been entrepreneurs before, right? So in that case, you've never built your company before. This is gonna be your first company. So what we're looking for is like entrepreneurial things in your life, right? Like, hey, on campus, you got a crew of 3 or 4 of you and you built a prototype of a game. Or you set up a brand new club on campus. Or you went out there and put together some cool festival and you had 1,000 people show up. Oh my God, that's not necessarily a business, but it shows like initiative and creating something from nothing. Yeah. We love people like that. And anybody who's done cool stuff like that, I want to talk to those people because you're going to only progress more and more. And you're going to get more resources behind you, you get more experience. And all of a sudden, you're all of a sudden building a company with 1,000 people. Whoa, instead of 1,000 people coming just for one day festival, actually working for you. So we want to find people like that. That's a really big thing. So build stuff. Like everybody in this room, just like start making things. Even if they're small, they actually will start compounding. And over time, it becomes something really big, or at least your resume becomes bigger and becomes more credible for people like Steve and myself to want to invest in you.
Well, that's great. That's really, really important advice from people who are actually investing now. Both of you invest and look at pitches and companies that even if it's the first time, because that's what a lot of students ask us, and that's what we're trying to do at the university here, and under Tech and iVentures and others, right? So you said serial entrepreneurs, or you want some experience beforehand. So how do you break that?
It's easier, right? Like
yes.
if somebody's built something before, even if they failed,
yes.
you saw it. But we know there are a lot of first entrepreneurs. Somebody has to start somewhere, right? So
yes.
in that aspect, start building things that are maybe not even companies, or start being excellent at something, right? And you'll get on a radar, right? Another thing that you mentioned when we were having private calls, like also how you get to people like us, right?
Yes.
Just like showing an email, a cold email, that does not work. Or it works somewhat, but not really well, right? Yeah. But if you can route yourself through, right? Find one of your professors and connect to you, to connect to one of us, right? That is a great way to get into people as well, too, right? And that also makes us pay attention much more as investors.
Great. Good. Well, I'll ask one more question. I know we have a few more things to do, but can you give one last advice from both of your perspective about what we could do in a university to build this entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial spirit among students, help create those mini PayPal experiences, create a mock PayPal experience, or like what could we do to really expand the entrepreneurial output from the college and the campus?
Okay. Well, I saw a lot of your initiatives, and it seems like they're all in the right direction, right? So I feel that just has to be compounded more, right? It just, I think some programs are like very, very new, right? So I think we're going to see the results in the next couple of years. I think from my perspective, one thing that, Steve touched on a little bit is like, there's Sand Hill Road, there's this kind of capital, right? Like, so the engineering guys, you've done great here. You're bringing awesome people to campus. I think we need to go out there and build a more active venture capital ecosystem around the campus, right? That starts everything from like angel investors, VCs, to even the endowment putting more money in. Like, I think all this has to happen because it's hand in hand, right? Silicon Valley does not exist without the money too.
Yeah,
it's kind of more behind the scenes and quiet, but like they are fueling this crazy taking adventure type of people. So yeah.
No, I mean, I would say like it's just spending 3 days up there in Chicago. I think Chicago's changed a lot, and I think it does. We visited a few of the sites where there are startups and incubators, and that was actually one thing in all the previous trips back that I thought was missing, was that Sand Hill Road is a pretty small. I mean, it's not a long
very
street,
small, but it's very concentrated.
But everywhere,
Yes.
And then as you're driving down, say 101, at least when I remember that first weekend when I arrived in 1999, it was like you're driving. That's Sun Microsystems and that's Oracle, and you're just seeing every one of these companies that that started from Silicon Valley. And whenever I've been back in Chicago for the last 20 plus years, I didn't know if you were a entrepreneurial minded, spirited person, where would you go? Where would you settle? What would you call your office? But I started to see some of that, but I think to be able to foster more of that, to be able to have these sort of serendipitous meetings at coffee shops, like that's, I think like it's not all possible just doing everything on Zoom. Like some of these meetings just still need to be able to happen, but you need the ecosystem to be able to have that be fostered. And I think that was, in the past, that's what I thought was missing in Chicago, but it seems like that's changing.
Yeah, good. Okay. Well, it's just about 5 o'clock, so I think we should give him a huge round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. We're not done yet, so maybe Paul, I'll ask you to. That's okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. This was just wonderful, and we've got to do something special with Paul next time he comes. Okay, where is Jed? All right, so maybe I'll do my thing now. So when I introduced Steve earlier, I noted that he became a member of the Grainger Engineering Hall of Fame. So if you go on our website, you will see a Grainger College of Engineering Hall of Fame. And if you actually go to the Grainger library, you will see names and pictures all around the library. And these are names of individuals who have truly done like something remarkable that has changed the world. So we inducted him into the Hall of Fame, actually him and Javed Karim, in 2022, just 2 years ago. Javed promised that he'll try to come sometime. So we'll try to pull him back sometime to campus too. The Grainger Engineering Hall of Fame recognizes Illinois engineering alumni and those affiliated with the college who have significant achievements in leadership, entrepreneurship, and innovation that have greatly impacted society. So it's my really honor to formally offer that award this afternoon. He did not know we're going to be doing this, so we just kept it as a surprise. And in recognition of his entrepreneurial spirit as a co-founder of YouTube and for internet technology innovations, I present to Steve Chen this plaque representing his induction into the Grainger Engineering Hall of Fame.
Someone's crying. Thank you.
All right, we'll just look over here. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we'll make sure that we ship all this to where you want to. You don't have to take this with you in your luggage. But there is a banner of him in Grainger, so please go visit that and take some pictures next to it too. All right. Can I? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now I'll actually turn it back to Jed just to close this out.
Excellent.
All right.
Great. Thank you again, Steve and Paul, for sharing your insights in innovation and entrepreneurship with our Grainger engineers. And so that wraps up our event this evening, so thank you all for attending. Steve has agreed to spend a few minutes here meeting with students after this event, after which we'll invite everyone to exit through the back of the auditorium. And also that wraps up our live stream as well. And of course, it will be posted on YouTube.
Great.
And we hope to see everyone next week at our 5 Years of Grainger Engineering event.
Great.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.